Welcome to the Northern Spaceport. I'm Jason, and welcome back to the House of Kog. Okay, so now I'm working on putting the Innovate LC2 wideband controller in. Now, I got it run through the firewall, which I'll show you here in a moment, and I am putting some wire wrap on the actual cable going down to the oxygen sensor. So I run 1/2 inch up here and I run 3/8 the rest of the way. So probably I will be having other wires come through the firewall at that spot, and I just wanted to have a wrap big enough to accommodate both of them from the outset. So that's why we did 1/2 inch on the front. And then at a certain point, I ran out of 1/2 inch. So I just decided wherever that's going to be, and it looks just to be about enough to go to the other side of the intake over there. And at that point's when the sensor wire needs to start dropping down, that I switched down to 3/8. So I'm just getting that wired up, and let's go in and take a look inside. One other quick tip while I'm thinking about it, you always want to do wire conduit like you do piston rings. So when you put piston rings on, you put the top and the bottom one on, and then you spin the opening 180 degrees from each other. Now, here you can see right now I've got them lined up to where both sides are facing outward. So you want to take and rotate whichever, like the inside sheathing, 180 degrees opposite of the opening. So now what I'm gonna do is zip tie it, and we'll have a little bit of overlap there like you could see, and then we should be good to run it. All right, good morning everybody. Well, yesterday, here's where I got. I finished getting the conduit routed. I just now pulled out all the starter bypass wire that they put in there so that it would route to a button instead of the key switch because of the issues that the ECM was having. I just got all that pulled out, and I'm working on getting this JEGS relay put in. I needed a good, clean power source for the Innovate wideband controller. They specifically said no radio, no ignition. It had to be an auxiliary wire, and I couldn't find a single good keyed on non-EM interference cable in this truck. So, I mean, probably some of that goes to my unfamiliarity with this truck, but also the fact that the wiring harness is a little hacked up on it. So, next best option was to install a relay. And I'm sure that my JEGS 30 amp relay is extremely overkill for what I need, but for right now, I had one here. I just had one in stock. I plan to use it on Phoebe, but I could just easily order another one. But I just got it unpackaged, and I'm gonna start getting it in. Okay, so it's been a couple hours, and I got, as you can see over there, I got the new conduit on. I got the conduit on for the O2 sensor connection, and then the power connection going over there to that breaker. Now I gotta get a better bolt to get it fixed, but that's just kind of the way I got it set up for right now. Okay, in reference to the solenoid, the relay. In reference to the relay, okay, so we've got the wire that I just showed you in conduit is going from the red wire on the relay connector or the harness to the circuit breaker, then to the battery. So for this, we're not using the thermal switch. Essentially, all that is a variable ground, or a ground switch, if you will. So all I have to do is just wire that to full-time ground, and then that'll remove the need for that switch. So we got to hook this one to a switched power source. So that is what we've found. Damn it. Because I couldn't find one in the wiring harness for the truck, I have my Autel handheld power scan tool. This is the competitor to the power probe. So with the key switch in the truck in the on position, I found that the red wire here on either the ECM relay or the fuel pump relay, I went to the fuel pump relay. You see here I'm reading 12 volts. Well, 11.6, but it's still 12. So that is on only with the truck key switch in the on position. This one's hot, or this one's ground. This one's hot. So I use one of these connectors, as you can see down there. So essentially what you do, I ended up having to strip a little wire, and then I got it closed, and then I just put the blade on it. So anyways, that seems to give me good connectivity to activate the relay on the inside of the truck for the wideband controller. So I think we're going to go with that. This is my first time. I've seen these online being used before, but this is my first time actually using one in practice. All right, so we can see here is, according to the Megasquirt instructions, and from what other research I could find through like LMR, which does Mustang restorations, you have to take the sensor at J6 that's set to O2 sensor, and then it's originally on J829. You need to take that off and move it over one pin to J843. My understanding, the reason you need to do this is that way it will tell the ECU to look at the back connector, the serial connector that I've shown you guys for O2 sensor data. All right, so now I've got the relay installed, I've got the wideband sensor installed, and I made a dipstick move earlier. I got all my wires put away, had everything squared away, and I was reading the last part of the instructions, and then I realized, darn it, I forgot to install the wideband all-important gauge, so that way you can see what's going on with your AFR. So at this point, we're ready to test and put the key switch in on position. I got the battery plugged back in, I got the breaker hooked in, so we should be good to give it a test. Okay, so we're gonna flip the key switch to the on position and just see if everything comes alive. What I'm expecting is this gauge over here to light up blue, and there should be a status indicator that pops up on the wideband controller. Fuel pump relays turned on, ECM relays turned on, but I have no light on my gauge, and I also have no click down here from this relay that I had to put in. Let's try that again. I have no relay firing here, okay? So I've got my power wires here, my ground's on. So the only thing, well, I guess what we do now is, let me get my power probe and we'll start looking. All right, so I got my Autel power probe here. So what we can do with this is it checks for voltage, resistance, and amp. And also it's a continuity checker where you can also test relays. So if I push the switch up, it's gonna get 12 volts. If I go down, it's ground. So with the key switch in the on position, I should have 12 volts here, which we're getting. I should have ground on this wire, which I do. I should be hot here, or ground here. It should be, if it was working, this purple wire should be 12, and this here should be hot also, and it's not. So that tells me that we need to check. Well, since we have this tool, what we can do is I can put my probe here, push the up wire, the up button, and it clicks. So let me turn that off. Okay. So now, as you can hear, now that I've silenced the power probe, if I push the up button, you can hear the relay clicking, which is telling me that my problem is my switched on. So again, if I go here, push up, you could see the gauge up there turn on. Okay, so what we have here, this is the wire that comes up for switched power on. So if I go here, you see I'm getting nothing. Now I can hear the relay ticking inside. So we know that this wire is good. So what we had found was that this connection going into this junction right here was not making good contact. It had actually pushed the spade connector down and away. Just like, yeah, it just did it again. So I'm gonna take and rebend that, and okay, so now that that's getting, it should be getting the correct, yeah, circuit. Now you can see in the window there that with the key switch in on position, we're getting the O2 sensor and the wideband sensor functioning. So now obviously if you guys choose to run a relay in a different manner or to a different switch source, I chose to do it off of the EEC relay because I knew that that was, generally speaking, the cleanest source that I could get to, but really it was one in the engine bay, and I just knew that that would be a good spot to run it versus having to try to troubleshoot and find something else in the cab. I knew that this wire was good because I also just replaced this relay and the connector, so I knew that we were going to be good to go there. Okay, so that'll do it this time for us on the House of Kog. Up next, we need to do a little bit of base ECU programming before we get the truck started, but be looking for that next time here at the House of Kog.